Part 4 of the Cave Surfer project. We're ready to start making our main character sprite actually rise and fall so it can flow through these caves. Something that I just want to fix about my project really quickly is you notice that my octopus sprite is actually quite large. If you've picked a sprite or an image to use for a sprite and it's too big, you can use this handy little shrink tool right here, and let's shrink him down a little bit so that he's not too huge. There we go. Okay. So, now that I have a reasonably sized sprite, the first thing we want to do is make sure we've got our main character sprite selected. You can see that we do right here. This is the code we've built so far. We need to actually make the character rise when the space key is pressed, or any other key that you want to choose. I'm going to use the space key, especially since this is just going to be a single player game for myself. And then we want it to fall when the space key is not being pressed. So what type of conditional statement do you guys think we're going to need to use? We've used if-then in the past, but I think since we want something to happen when the condition's not being met, we should use an if-then-else statement. So let's go ahead and drag that out. And now that we've got an if-then-else statement out here in our scripts area, we need to actually add a sensing block to create the test. So we only want it to rise when the space key is pressed, and we want it to fall when the space key is not being pressed. So let's look in the sensing menu for a sensing block that can help us here. And here is the space key pressed block. So we'll go ahead and put that into the conditional. And we also know that we're actually going to need a motion block to make our character rise and fall. So remember, the stage is like an XY coordinate plane. So if we want him to move horizontally, we'll change his X direction. And if we wanted to move vertically, we'll actually want to change the Y direction. So we're going to use a change YY block. And I'm going to set the initial value to 5 because I want him to move a positive value of 5 on that x-axis. And if we're not pressing the space key, I want him to fall, so I need to make it a negative value. And the other thing that we need to do is figure out where this conditional statement should actually go in the script. So we want it to always be checking the condition, because remember, conditionals only run one time on their own. So we need to put this inside of our forever loop. And now that we've got that inside of our forever loop, let's go ahead and test out the code. So I'm pressing the space key, and you can see he's rising and falling as I let go of it. Fantastic. But we can make our game look so much more awesome if we actually make it change costumes. So I've picked a sprite that has 2 costumes, but if you don't have one that has 2 costumes, you can go ahead and make a copy of a costume by clicking duplicate and then edit it in the paint editor and make it look a little bit different and have it switch between the 2 costumes to create the illusion of motion. So now that I have 2 costumes for my sprite, I want to go ahead and add a switch costume block depending on whether or not I am pressing the space key. So let's go to the looks menu and find that block, and I'll have him switch to octopus B when I press the space key and octopus A when I'm not pressing the space key, and let's see if that works. So you can see now this looks a lot more realistic as my octopus sprite moves through the caves. Awesome. So have fun with part 4, and I'll see you back here for part 5 where we actually create the winning condition.